All right, today we're going to talk about circles. And today we're going to talk about circumference of circles and area of circles. So we have some definitions, some vocab. A diameter is the distance across the circle, but it does have to go through the center, so it's the biggest distance across the circle. The radius is the distance from the outside of the circle to the center, so half of the diameter, that's their relationship between them. Circumference is the distance around the outside of the circle, so how far does it take to go all the way around the circle? And there's pi, 3.14159265358, so on and so forth. Pi is just a number. It's usually found in your calculator. You can use 3.14 if you don't have a pi button, but it is used to approximate circumference and diameter relationship. So let's start with the circumference. Circumference of a circle is equal to the diameter times pi, or 2 times the radius times pi. So there's two different formulas. You can use either one. If you know the diameter, then you can use this one. If you know the radius, you use this one. So it doesn't matter which one you use. You can just use either or. So make sure that you know both of them. All right, so let's go ahead and try to find the circumference. So here's the circumference again would be the distance around the outside. So the circle from this part all the way around back to this part. And if this circle is 12 inches across, how far is it to go all the way around? Well, this is a diameter here, so we're going to use the C equals pi d formula. Because this goes all the way across, that's a diameter. So it's just pi times 12. We also like to call it 12 pi. And then we can use our calculator to go ahead and get the decimal approximation. 12 times pi, and you hit enter, and we have this one, and it says round to the nearest tenth. So the tenth is here, the 6, so we look at the next number, which is a 9, so we, of course, are going to round up. So 37.7 inches. All right, let's try another one. Now notice the dimension here. This is not a diameter. This only goes to the center, so that is a radius. We can still find the circumference going around, but we're going to use the other formula, so 2 pi r. So the 7.1 is going to go in the spot of r. Do some multiplying, 2 times 3.14 times 7.1, and we get 44.6. 44.6. Put the label on it, meters. All right, let's talk about a story problem. A landscaper has a tree whose roots form a ball-shaped bulb with the circumference of 110 inches. What is the minimum diameter that the landscaper will need to dig a hole of in order to plant the tree? So they're saying this is how far it is all the way around. They want to know how far is it across, so how big does that hole need to be? Well, we can use our idea. We know the circumference. We need to figure out the diameter. So let's use the formula. So C equals pi d. Now we have been putting it in for d and just multiplying by pi. This one's backwards. They're going to tell us what the circumference is. That's 110, so we put it in for the circumference. Now if we want to find d, we're just going to have to divide by pi. So we're going to divide by pi, put it in our calculators, and we're talking about a 35-inch hole. All right, area of a circle. There's only one formula for this, pi r squared. Remember, r squared means r times r. It has to be the radius. It cannot be the diameter. It only is the radius. There's no diameter formula. All right, first problem, they give us the radius here. It's 17. You always have to identify what we have, a radius or diameter. So it's going to be, if we wanted to estimate it, it's going to be 3 because that's about what pi is, times 17 squared, or around that number. Let's find it exactly though. 17 squared is 289, and then we're going to multiply that by pi, and we get 907.9. Again, similar to this, but we needed to have the rest of the pi in order to get the answer correct. So 907.9 square feet. Now notice we put the square feet in here because we're talking about area now. Circumference is just the distance around, so it stays in feet. When we're talking about the area on the inside, that's a square foot. Let's try another one. Now notice what happens here. They have the diameter. Diameter does not help us with area of a circle, so we're going to have to cut that in half. Again, we can estimate that. But notice it's 4.15 that we're doing. We take this 8.3 and we divide it by 2, which is 4.15. Now 4.15 squared is 17.2225. And then we multiply that by pi for 54. So about 54.1 square centimeters. All right, let's find a circumference and an area. So I got my circumference ones and I got my area ones. Now this 8 is a radius, so I'm going to use the one with the radius. I'm going to do 8 pi r and then pi r squared. So let's deal with the circumference. Put the 8 in for r, multiply, get 16, times pi is that 10.3. Over here we have to do 8 squared, which is 64, times it by pi is 201. Label it correctly. Inches for circumference, inches squared for area. Let's try one more. This one, of course, they give us the diameter across. So if they're using diameter, we're going to use our diameter formula. So pi times d, so pi times 9, or 9 pi, or 28.3. Over here, again, notice what I had to do. I had to take this radius, I had to find the radius. So I got to cut that 9 in half, so 4.5 and 4.5. Giving us 63.6 when we multiply by pi. And so our two answers, centimeters and centimeters squared. And that's what I have for you today.